evening. Thank you very much for joining us on this virtual tour. Warm welcome. Before we begin, dear friends, just help me with some technical details. So our host, Sister Vierka, she muted you all. Please can you check if you're muted? So if you're muted, fine. If you're not muted, please mute yourself. But as much as we can see so far, everything is okay. Just checking. And can you all hear me? If you can't hear me, just please wave your hand. Can you hear me? Okay? Yes? Beautiful. Thank you. Hello and welcome, my dear brothers and sisters. Warm welcome to a virtual tour, Iron and Clay. I'm sure, my dear friends, that you will enjoy the following about 90 minutes of a program because we'll discuss one of the Bible's most astonishing prophecies recorded in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, and we will see how prophecy, history, archaeology can offer a deep insight into the times we are living in. So, first and foremost, dear friends, thank you for joining us in such a big number. We have 1,000 devices, brothers and sisters from all around the world, really all around the world. Warm welcome, dear friends. Warm welcome and enjoy the following 2 minutes introduction to a virtual tour. Just a second. we begin, dear friends, just a few words about your virtual guide today. My name is Marinko. Last name is Hojski. My wife Tamara and I, we live and we serve in Croatia, that is in Central Europe. And we spent 25 years in the full-time service. And since 2017, I work together with Museum Bible Tours in organizing in-person and virtual tours in Europe and Middle East. So it is my privilege, dear friends, to present to you this material, this program, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. So once again, dear friends, warm welcome to a virtual tour, Iron and Clay. Dear friends, this is iron, one of the oldest metals known to man. Strong, hard metal that comes from the ground. Did you know that Earth's core is said to be nearly 90% iron? And this is clay. Clay is fine-grained, natural, earthy material. When clay is wet, as you already know, you can shape with your hands, mold it into anything you want, really. Even when baked hard, clay is not a strong material. Now, here's a question. What happens when you mix clay with iron? And the answer is, they don't truly mix or stick together. Yes, they don't mix well because they have incompatible physical and thermal properties. They don't chemically bond. They react very differently to heat, stress, moisture. In other words, dear friends, the mixture of iron and clay is worthless. So, what is so special about iron and clay? And why we are talking about them at all? Because the Bible contains an astonishing prophecy recorded in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. In that prophecy, Jehovah revealed, quote, what is to happen in the final part of the days. And yes, in that prophecy, Jehovah uses a very powerful metaphor of iron mixed with clay to describe a divided and unstable political situation today, in our time. And according to the Bible, this division, this unrest, was foretold to happen just before Jehovah sets up his heavenly government. So in other words, this prophecy is being fulfilled right now, before our very eyes. So learning about it will definitely give us a different perspective of current events. So, dear brothers and sisters, why is the world so fragmented, even with all our progress? What major developments, political, ideological, cultural, led to this unstable and divided world we see today? Yes, those are questions we'll discuss in this virtual tour, Iron and Clay. So we'll try to piece together clues from history. We'll explore fascinating artifacts, documents, archaeological sites across the globe. We'll explore influential ideas, influential individuals who played a defining role in shaping the world we live in today. So, if you're ready, dear friends, the question is, what does iron mixed with clay have to do with our world today? So if you're ready, let's find out. Clay is one of the oldest materials used by humans. Very early in human history, people discovered that wet clay could be shaped into blocks and simply dried in the sun. These early bricks were made from mixture, no, not clay and iron, no, but mud and straw, and simply shaped by hand. And they were dried in the sun, not fired. Now, the Bible says that after the flood, people used a new technique that would change how cities were built. Let me quote Genesis 11:3. So the Bible says that post-flood people said, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them with fire. And yes, they discovered after the flood that baking bricks in a kiln made them harder and stronger. And interestingly, archaeologists have unearthed in ancient Babylon enormous numbers of baked bricks that they were used to build the city of Babylon. And among them are many that include a stamped inscription praising a king. And this brick on your screen is the one of them. So, what you see on the screen, this is a brick, but please pay attention on the inscription on it. So, inscription reads, Nebuchadnezzar, King of Babylon. The palace, the dwelling place of Her Majesty I built, may my posterity bear rule in it forever. Yes, familiar name, right? Nebuchadnezzar. Yes, Nebuchadnezzar is among the most eminent kings in history, definitely. And history shows that he was really an amazing builder. During his reign, he oversaw the construction of temples, ziggurats, temple towers, palaces, gardens. And according to some sources, Nebuchadnezzar's workers used over 15 million bricks like this in his building projects. Please try to remember this data. So Nebuchadnezzar's workers used over 15 million bricks in his building projects. And as you can see, almost all of them carried the same inscription. And for this reason, Nebuchadnezzar bricks are a relatively common sight at ancient history museums around the world. Yes, Nebuchadnezzar is among the most eminent kings in history. But for us who love the Bible, Nebuchadnezzar is also one of the most well-known figures in entire Bible. Actually, he's mentioned close to 90 times in the Bible. For example, in Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 7, Nebuchadnezzar is called the destroyer of nations. Destroyer of nations. That was a very apt description because he fought battles with Egypt, with Lebanon, with Moab, with Ammon. And actually he began what was called the Siege of Tyre. And for the biblical history, especially under Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon became a golden cup. Golden cup, that's an expression from Jeremiah 51, verse 7, in the hand of Jehovah, in order to punish unfaithful Judah and Jerusalem. And yes, Nebuchadnezzar, he was the one who destroyed Jerusalem in 607 BC. And that year, dear friends, is a starting point of our story. 607 BC, destruction of Jerusalem. Why? Because the Bible book of Daniel, chapter 2, says that about 2 years after the destruction of Jerusalem, that means 606 or 605 BCE, something extraordinary happened in the royal palace of Babylon. One night, King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a strange dream. It bothered him so much that he could not sleep. He awoke disturbed and he demanded answers. He even threatened to kill all his wise men, including Daniel, if they could not tell him what he had dreamed. And according to Daniel chapter 2, the dream involved an immense image in human form. The body of the image was divided into 5 parts, each one with different metal composition. Head of gold, breasts and arms of silver, belly and thighs of copper, legs of iron, and finally, feet of iron mixed with clay. So the sections of the body of the image represented the succession of political empires that began with Babylon. Now, dear friends, please note a very interesting detail because we'll need it later in the tour. So, the body parts of the image were of metal, of course. But please note, as the metals go downward, from top to bottom, from the head to the feet, the value or preciousness of the metals decreases, declines. That means that metals become less noble, less beautiful, less rare. From gold to silver, from silver to copper, from copper to iron. But at the same time, as the metals go downward, the hardness or strength of the metals tends to increase. For example, gold is most valuable, most beautiful, definitely, but also the softest of the metals. Silver, still precious, but a bit harder than gold. Copper is harder and more durable than silver. And finally, iron is the hardest and strongest of them all. So, yes, as we move down the statue, the metals get stronger. And then something changes. At the very bottom of the image, the iron, the hardest and strongest of the metals, is mixed with clay. The strength turns to weakness. What was once solid becomes fragile. And the whole structure becomes unstable, right? Now, when Daniel explained the dream, he did identify the head of gold, because he explicitly says to Nebuchadnezzar, you yourself are the head of gold. And beside the head of gold, the only part of the image that is explicitly explained in detail is actually the clay. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 43, we read, just as you saw iron mixed with clay, they will be mixed with the people. The people. Footnote reads, the offspring of mankind, or simply the common people. The common people. The rest of the parts of the image, so silver, bronze, iron, were described as other kingdoms that would come afterward, but they were not named specifically. So, how do we know what other parts of the image represent? Think of it like assembling a puzzle. So let's say that chapter 2 in the book of Daniel gives us kind of outline of the picture. The rest of the book of Daniel gradually fills in the missing pieces. So, the later parts of the book of Daniel and history itself help us to connect the dots. So, when we consider the rest of the book of Daniel, when we consider the record of history, the other parts of the image clearly represent. So, head of gold, as we already said, Babylonian Empire. Breasts and arms of silver depicted Medo-Persia. Belly and thighs of copper pointed to ancient Greece. Legs of iron picture the Roman Empire. And finally, the feet represent Anglo-American alliance. But the real question, dear friends, the real question is, how did history bring us to a point where the final world power stands on the foundation that is both less precious and dangerously unstable? That's the real question. Now, before we dive deeper into the answer to that question, let me share with you one important point about the human government in general. Throughout the history, there have been many forms of human government. Historians say that there are 10 to 12 major types of government throughout the history, like anarchy, monarchy, oligarchy, theocracy, democracy, republic, empire, dictatorship, communism, fascism, and so on. 10 to 12 major types. So we're talking about human government.